Hello and welcome back to Frogboy X1 Gaming, my fellow video gamers. I'm Andrew, and we are going to talk about the fact that the what are they called, the experts, Digital Foundry, have literally come out and validated everything I've been saying about the PlayStation 1440p update. This update is incredible. Now, I do fully believe that Sony is going to support VRR going forward in this 1440p mode. Essentially, what I've been saying and what Digital Foundry today validated is that, yeah, 1440p is great, especially if you are downsampling that 4K image to 1440p. You're getting more detail. You're getting a better looking image quality on a lot of stuff out there, on a lot of stuff. And like I said about the Demon Souls thing, like, it looks way good now. I appreciate Sony listening to us and bringing us the 1440p update. Like, I really do appreciate that. It essentially makes me feel, as a Sony PlayStation customer, that they care about what I'm saying, and it does. I mean, they're clearly not listening about the $70 thing. I mean, I guess watching Square Enix fall and all these other companies that are charging $70 and all their sales are going down. It's a mental block, man. I've said that a long time. It's a mental block. It's not a question of if the game is worth $70 or not. That's not a question. I mean, you've got free-to-play games that people spend hundreds of dollars on to play those games. What we are talking about is a mental block for games that, like Gran Turismo 7, has microtransactions in it. $70. To pay $70 for these games, it just doesn't make a lot of sense for them to charge us $70. The $70 price thing is literally a tax for people that want to play the game day one. That's all it is. It's a tax. You got both Horizon Forbidden West and Gran Turismo 7 are already at $50. They've already been dropped to $50. Why not just put these games out at $49.99? I mean, granted, yeah, you're not gonna be able to tax, the people, that extra $20 or whatever, but you're gonna sell a lot more copies just because that barrier to entry is lower. You're going to sell more copies of that game. And, like, you can't tell me that over the 20 million course of copies of God of War, you really trying to tell me that you really think everybody paid $60 for that game? You really paid? No, man. That game has been as low as $10 on the PlayStation Store. As low as $10. They've given it away in bundles with PlayStation freaking Pros and PS4s during Christmas time. They had, what was it? Horizon Forbidden West, God of War, and another game. 3 games for in the PlayStation price, literally giving them away. There was no markup on those PlayStations. It was literally they were throwing them in and getting them out the door. But this isn't about that price. This is about Sony effectively listening to me. Well, I mean, listening to the community, because 1440p is literally the sweet spot for gaming. And I mean that. I wish TVs would come out, but it just doesn't make any sense. Okay, for the TV market, it doesn't make any sense because you're going from 1080p to 4K. Yes, you're noticing a major difference. But if you're sitting 10 feet away, you cannot tell a difference between 1080p and 4K. You have to literally be close. You have to be close to actually see a major difference. It looks sharper, it looks cleaner when you're sitting close to it. But let's face it, most gamers aren't like me. They're not going to pull their chair up right up to their freaking wall to play their video games. I like the extra added quality that 4K image brings. But it also has some downsides when it comes to these consoles. Yes, the graphics look sharp and clear, as they should. I mean, the resolution should fit the resolution being displayed. But you're leaving so much. These games could look so much better, way better at 1440p than they ever can on these consoles at 4K. Now, there's a lot of talk of, Fidelity FX Super Resolution. There's a lot of talk of Direct ML. There's a lot of talk of all these other things. And yes, they do work. I've seen them work on my PC. I've seen DLSS work really well and still give me a really playable frame rate on a lot of games. So I do believe in the technology itself, but I also believe in 1440p with max settings at over 100 frames a second. Like, that's pretty freaking sweet. Like, that's really sweet. That looks incredible. Every game I've tried on my PC with maxed out settings at native 1440p resolution looks better than everything I have ever seen on my 4K screen on any game. On any game. It literally looks incredible. It looks so good, it's not even funny. And you get the added benefit of all the extra upgrades that they could put into those games. Could you imagine if Ubisoft was to just come out and be like, yeah, dude, we're just going to make a 1440p native mode with max settings on like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and then just leave the frame rate unlocked and let it see what it could go? I bet you'd be getting like 80 frames a second at a native 1440p. I mean, I think you could get past the 60 frames a second. Probably not all the time. I mean, you would have dips, but if you have VRR support and it works good, like, you're not going to notice those dips. But that extra fluidity of how that game feels above 60 frames a second is incredible. The combat feels better, and this is with God of War. With God of War, I'm getting max settings at up to 100 frames. It goes from about 89 up to 100 frames a second on the PC build setup that I have right now, and the combat in that game feels way better. I played Ghostwire Tokyo. I played it on the PlayStation 5, like on the 60 FPS mode. It just feels like, oh boy, man, like it still feels kind of jerky for a first person shooter at 60 frames a second. But when I bought it and put it on my PC, and I'm playing that game at well over 100 frames a second, and I'm like, wow, this is truly incredible. The way the game feels and plays, and the atmosphere, and being able to max out those settings and have ray tracing and everything at 1440p native makes that game really, really shine. But here's the kicker. Now that I've had the 1440p update now for the PlayStation 5, I have revisited Ghostwire Tokyo at the 1440p on the monitor, and it looks a lot better. Being downscaled, boom, it looks so much better now. It looks a lot better. It looks closer to what I was playing on the PC. Now, granted, you're still leaving, like ray tracing and stuff, but they got these high frame rate modes in there that actually enhance the game past the 60 frames a second. Now, it doesn't it doesn't run way past 60 frames a second, but it gives you enough to where you could still get decent image quality with ray tracing and still be able to play that game. Although if with the 1440p monitor that I have and not having access to the VRR, that's essential. The VRR support for the 1440p mode is going to be essential. So Sony is going to have to bring that eventually. They can't just give the community a 1440p update and then expect us to just sit around at 60 frames a second. But I mean, they could potentially do that. But I think it would be in their best interest, especially with their new monitors that they've got coming out. I'm pretty sure that they will be bringing out a 1440p monitor, because that's pretty much the sweet spot. Not many people are really going for the 1080p unless they want over 200 frames a second, because that's the highest you're going to get. I mean, you're going to get like way higher frame rate on a 1080p. And 4K, it's just, man, you need like a 3080, a 3090 to really push those cards and get like high settings and high frame rates. So, I mean, gosh, like the PlayStation 5, is like what, a 2070 Super or something in terms of raw power, and I mean that's definitely pushable. And if they shoot for 1440p modes on these new consoles, we're gonna get way more bang for our buck. And I'm telling you, man, I've been a gamer for over 37 years, and I've never once in my life tried to venture out really past, like a TV gaming console thing until now. When I started this channel, now I am really starting to broaden my horizon and really start to try to understand and take in a lot more of this so that I can bring you better content. Because, I mean, I could sit here and talk about my consoles all day long. My console this, my console that. Eventually, the market's going to be saturated. Everybody's going to have PlayStation 5s and Series X's. I literally saw a Series X on the shelf at a store just yesterday. So it is going to start to get to a point where access to these consoles is going to be better and people are going to be able to get them faster. So unless I increase my knowledge and move forward and be able to figure things out and be able to bring you, good content day one, I'm afraid that this channel might just fall into obscurity, So I have to, in order to grow this channel, in order to grow myself, I have to figure this stuff out. I have to learn this stuff. I can't just sit back and rely on Call of Duty videos to try to build this community. Like, I can't do that. Like, I like Call of Duty, but I'm not as invested in Call of Duty as a lot of other people. So, I mean, like, what contribution could I bring to the Call of Duty space that isn't already being done better? And that's the way I look at this gaming channel. Like, what do I do that other people aren't doing better than what I'm doing? I can only bring you my knowledge and the things that I understand, and I can be excited and, generally I care about video games. And I do feel like there's a lot of negativity out there around video games that I don't necessarily want to be a part of, but I have my moments when I freak out stuff. I've been a really harsh critic of PlayStation this generation, and I've been a fan of PlayStation for a very long time, since the PlayStation 1. So I criticize them a lot because I'm like, wait a minute, dude, your closest competitor is blowing the doors off when it comes to system features. And then, I mean, I know, PlayStation fanboys, sit down, have a seat, guys. I know you guys are going, but PlayStation is putting out too many quality games. And I'm like, okay, your definition of quality and my definition of quality clearly are a little bit different right now at this point in time. They're clearly a little different. Yes, they are putting out some cool PlayStation 4 games that look a lot better on the PlayStation 5, but they're not touching the great ones that they put out the year before the PlayStation 5. The Last of Us 2, Ghost of Tsushima, like, these games were great. Final Fantasy VII Remake, these games were great. The stuff that they've put out so far on PlayStation 5, literally Sackboy is the best one. Sackboy is freaking pretty cool. Ratchet and Clank was cool, but I still look at that game more as a tech demo and a kid's game more than anything that I'm like, wow, man, this is something really cool. Like, it does push some boundaries a little bit forward. I mean, we are starting to get to a spot with the PlayStation 5 where I'm starting to feel better about it. I personally am starting to feel better about the PlayStation 5 experience. But now I'm hearing from people, even in our community, that are saying that their PlayStation 5s are shutting off on them. They're just shutting off on them while they're playing games and stuff. They're overheating. They're getting hot. Like, is this going to be a problem for PlayStation going forward? Only time is going to tell, man. I haven't ran into that problem with my PlayStation 5 yet. I don't play it that often. I don't keep it in like a really dusty environment, so I don't know if this is something that's going to affect me, but I mean, the tools to take your PlayStation 5 apart are pretty cheap. You could probably get a kit on Amazon for like $20. $20. Pull off the covers, blow it out, put it back together. As long as you don't nick any wires or scratch the freaking the motherboard or do anything like that, like being like, just pull the clamshell off and blow it out. Put the clamshell back on, and hopefully that will fix your problem. It's I know it might seem daunting. It might seem a little bit, like, oh man, can I do this? If your PlayStation 5 is already out of warranty, I don't necessarily see any problem with it. But if this is a design flaw in the PlayStation 5, they will have to address it, and they will have to do something for you eventually if it bugs enough people. Xbox had to do it with the Red Ring of Death. It sounds like PlayStation 5 engineering might just be a little bit. Dust settles, it falls down, and with the Xbox, it pushes it up. With this here, it's sucking it in from the top and pushing it out the back. I don't know if that maybe mount your PlayStation 5 upside down and it should be fine. Like, seriously, mount your PlayStation 5 upside down and you should be fine with that. I was actually thinking about doing that with mine. If I do have that problem, I have to take it apart and blow it out. I will mount it from then forward. I'll mount it up on that shelf. I'll just put a couple screws through the base plate. I really will do that too, man. Like, you'll come in, you'll see my PlayStation hanging up behind us and be like, what the heck? Yeah, dude, if I have to take it apart and clean it out like that, yeah, I'm going to take it apart, clean it out really good, and I'm going to hang it upside down. So that's really good. I really appreciate, the professionals, Digital Foundry, coming out and being, just as happy about this update as I am, pretty much. It does make a difference. it does change the way that you are going to play your PlayStation 5 games. Like you're going to have that solid image quality, and that's been my problem with PlayStation 5 or PlayStation since the PS4 Pro. The PlayStation 4 Pro came out and was advertised as a 4K capable console. I spent $3,000 on a freaking TV back then just so I could put that PlayStation 4 Pro on it. And I mean, at first I was like playing the PlayStation games. I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. These look great. And then the Series X or the Xbox One X came out a year later, and I was like, wait a minute, this is not. I was starting to see with my own eyes that, hey man, this is not a 4K experience. This is not holding up that well. It's not getting the job done. I'm seeing a lot of blur. I'm seeing a lot of this and that, and it's not exactly the image quality that I want on a PlayStation 4. The Xbox One X was giving me that with my third-party games, so I started buying all my third-party games there. Xbox Series X has been it's about the same thing with the Xbox Series X. I buy all my third-party games there. I buy the Xbox games too, but the PlayStation 5 is literally more now for my experience with the first-party games, and that's fine. That's fine, but this update levels the field for the PlayStation 5. Now more developers can hit 1440p with their games consistently, so your experience won't be as inconsistent when it comes to the PlayStation 5 platform if you're willing to give 1440p a try. I love this 1440p monitor. I have my Series X hooked up to it. I have my PlayStation 5 hooked up to it. The only console that I hook up to the 4K screen now is my Xbox Series X because I love the Dolby Vision and I get the Dolby Vision on that. So that's the thing. I mean, the PlayStation 5, yeah, I'll hook it up and I'll test like the games when they come out, the 4K modes or whatever. But as far as I'm concerned, it being firmly planted on my 1440p monitor, I'm excited about that. I'm happy I get to play the PlayStation 5 without having to worry about an inconsistent experience. And that's been one of my biggest qualms with PlayStation this generation. I'm like, it's underpowered. And then when I'm playing Demon Souls, I'm like, ooh gosh, we're dropping all the way down to 1440p for a corridor type game. Like, what's going on, guys? Like, what's going on with the PlayStation? What is wrong with this PlayStation? You get Ratchet and Clank coming out and you're like, what is going on, guys? What's going on with this 4K 30 stuff? And you got Xbox over here with games that look decent on a 4K screen running at 60 frames a second. You're like, what's going on, PlayStation? Come on, man. Help me understand what's going on. So, I don't know. I think things are going to be a little more balanced, on the channel going forward. I'll be able to cover more PlayStation stuff without being like, ew. But yes, we still do some checkerbird hunting. Of course. I mean, I never designed this channel to be a PlayStation hate channel. I designed this channel to be a gaming channel. So, yeah, I think things are looking up, at least in my part, for PlayStation 5. I'm generally becoming more happy about it, a little more excited about it. I am still pretty happy about the 1440p monitor support. Now I just want some games that are above average, that are better than average, because that's what we've gotten. So, if you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.